In the quiet part of State Housing Estate in Calabar lived a wealthy family. Their house was big and beautiful, with flowers around the gate and a high fence that kept most people out. Inside that house lived Aniette Okeme, the only child of Chief and Madam Okeme. Aniette was tall, light-skinned, and always looked neat. He had his own room, his own TV, and even a driver to take him to school every day. Life was easy for him. He had everything a young boy could ever want. Just outside the city, in a small rented apartment with a leaking roof, lived Idara, and her mother, Mama Idara. Mama was the family cook for the Ukemes. She had worked with them for over 10 years. Every other day, she would go to their house to cook and clean the kitchen. Most times, Idara followed her. She would sit quietly in the kitchen, doing her homework or helping her mother watch vegetables. From the corner of her eye, she would always notice Aniette walking past. He never really looked at her. Sometimes he greeted with a nod. Other times, he just walked away with his headphones on. To Idara, Aniette was proud and too quiet. He didn't talk much. He acted like he was better than everyone. She couldn't understand how someone could live in such a comfort and still carry such a proud face. But deep inside, she admired him. She liked the way he walked, the way he dressed, and how he always smelled nice. Sometimes, she wondered what it would be like if he smiled at her, if he talked to her. But she never told anyone, not even her mother. To Aniette, Edie, as he secretly called her, was different. He remembered the first time he saw her, braids on her head, eyes full of questions, and hands helping her mom wash the ugu leaves. She had a strong look, like someone who would never be afraid of anything. He admired her boldness, but never had the courage to speak to her. He thought maybe she didn't like him. He thought she was too serious. And he was also scared that if he talked to her, his parents would find out, or worse, Mama would tell his mom. So, day after day, they saw each other but never truly met. Two hearts, growing up in the same city, in different worlds. One day, Aniette sat by the window of his room, watching the garden below. Mama was in the kitchen again, her voice humming an old Efik song. As usual, her daughter Idara sat beside the kitchen door, peeling onions and talking softly with her mom. Aniette didn't know why, but he always waited for those days. He would sit quietly in his room, pretending to be busy with a book, just so he could catch a glimpse of her. Idara was different from the other girls he saw in school or at church. She didn't laugh too much. She didn't dress to impress, but her eyes, they always looked like they knew something others didn't. Once their eyes met, just once. It was the day Mama had asked Idara to bring a tray of sliced tomatoes into the main kitchen. Aniette had just walked in to get a bottle of water. Their path crossed. She looked up at him, and their eyes locked. He froze. She looked away first, and then quickly walked past him. That moment stayed with him for a long time. Ini, on the other hand, had her own memories. Each time her mother said, "Let's go to the Ukeme's house," her heart beat a little faster. She would brush her hair carefully, wear her neatest top, and spray the little perfume her aunt bought her last Christmas. She didn't know why she cared so much, but she did. Maybe he will talk to me today, she would think. But he never did. Aniette always kept his distance, always so serious, always in his own world. He's just proud, she would tell herself. But still, when she got home, she would open her old notebook and write little notes like, "Saw him again today. He looked taller. He didn't smile. I wish he did." Or, "I wonder if he even knows my name." But she never told her mom, because in her mother's world, Love was not a game for poor girls like her. It was a distraction. Mama always said, "You must work hard, Idara. Don't look at rich people's children. Focus on your books." So Idara kept her feelings in her heart like a secret flower. She watered it silently and hoped and watched it grow silently. And then the visit stopped. Her mom said Madam Ukeme had hired another part-time chef to reduce Mama Mm's workload. There was no need to go every other day anymore. Aniette noticed. He kept waiting, but the kitchen was always quiet now. No more soft humming, no more onions being peeled, no more Idara sitting by the door. She was gone. Two hearts that had started noticing each other now had no reason to meet. But life, as always, was not done with their story. Not yet. The days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months. The Ukeme house was quieter now. No more warm smells from the kitchen. No more low conversations between Mama and her daughter. For Aniette, something felt missing, though he couldn't explain it. He would walk past the kitchen door sometimes, half expecting to see Idara sitting on her usual stool, peeling something or laughing softly at her mother's jokes. But the kitchen stayed empty. He told himself it didn't matter. "I never even talked to her," he whispered to himself one day while brushing his teeth. But the ache in his chest said otherwise. Far across town, Idara sat in her room, surrounded by books. It was her final year in secondary school. Her WAEC exams were coming up and she was studying day and night. Her mother was proud. "Idara, you're going to do great things," Mama often said, touching her daughter's cheek gently. "God will lift you higher than this kitchen job. You will become a lawyer like the ones we see on TV." Those words became Idara's fire. She studied hard, refused distractions, and didn't even attend her friends' parties or outings. But sometimes, late at night, when the whole house was quiet, she would sit by the window and think of that house in State Housing. She would think of Aniette, his quiet face, the sound of his laughter once when his friends visited, the way he walked around like the world belonged to him. She wondered if he remembered her at all. Meanwhile, Aniette had his own journey. After secondary school, he traveled to Abuja briefly to stay with his uncle, then came back and secured admission into the University of Calabar, studying electrical engineering. His parents were proud. "You are going to make us proud, my son," Chief Ukeme said. "You will run this country one day," Madam Ukeme added, smiling. But even in university, as Aniette joined the student politics and started gaining popularity, there were nights he still thought about the girl in the kitchen. He couldn't explain why she stayed in his thoughts. He just knew something in him had noticed something in her. Strong, bold, untouchable. Idara also wrote JAMB that year and passed with flying colors. She gained admission into the University of Calabar too, but in a different faculty, law. When her mother read the admission letter, she cried. My daughter is going to become a lawyer," she shouted, dancing around the room. They didn't have much money, but they managed to pay her acceptance fee and hostel charges. Mama even sold her old wrapper to buy her daughter a simple suitcase. On the day Idara left for school, her mother held her close. "Remember who you are, Idara. Remember why you are there. Don't look at boys. Don't look at rich people's children. Just focus." Idara smiled but didn't speak, because in her heart, she knew she was going to the same school as him. But what she didn't know was that he was no longer the quiet boy in the big house. He was now someone completely different, and soon they were going to meet again. The sun was hot on Ini's skin as she stepped into the gate of the University of Calabar for the first time. Her bag was heavy, her feet was tired, but her heart was full of hope. "This is it," she whispered to herself, "my new beginning." She had never seen a place so big before. Students walked in different groups, some laughing loudly, some hurrying to class, and others sitting under trees with books and snacks. Her hostel, Hall 3, was small and stuffy, but she didn't complain. She shared the room with 3 other girls, who all had different personalities. One quiet, one loud, and one always on her phone. Idara didn't mind. She had come to study, not make friends. But it didn't take long before Idara made a name for herself. In her first month, she noticed that the hostel water supply was poor. Girls would wake up by 4 a.m. just to fetch water. Some even had to bribe security men to get access to the tank. She couldn't keep quiet. She stood on a chair in the hostel courtyard one morning and shouted, "We deserve better. We paid for hostel fees, not for stress and suffering." Girls stopped to listen. Someone recorded her speech and posted it online. The video went viral across the school. "Who is this new law girl?" people began to ask. "She's bold, oh. She doesn't fear anybody." Meanwhile, on the other side of campus, Aniette was walking into a meeting of the Students' Union government. He wore a fitted white shirt, sunglasses, and a confident smile. He was now in 300 level, studying electrical engineering, and had become the SUG president. He was well known across campus, smart, charming, but also a little distant. Many students respected him, but some didn't trust him. "He works for the school management," they would whisper. "He never speaks up for students." But Aniette didn't care. He had his own way of doing things, quiet, calculated, and smooth. He thought everything was under control, until someone mentioned a name that caught his attention. "That new girl, Idara MM. She's causing trouble already," one of the student executives said. She led a mild protest in Hall 3. She gathered students against the school, and she is still gathering students. Aniette looked up slowly. "Ini, MM?" he repeated. Something about that name rang a bell, but he shook his head and moved on. That evening, as Idara sat under a tree reading her law textbook, some students gathered around her. "Idara, what you did was powerful," one boy said. "You should run for faculty representative," another girl added. But Idara smiled and said, "I didn't do it for position. I did it because it was the right thing." Still, her name was spreading fast. She was becoming the voice of students who had no one to speak for them. And not far away, the SUG president was preparing for the biggest protest the school had ever seen in years. But what he didn't know yet was that the bold girl everyone was talking about was the same Idara who once sat peeling onions in his family kitchen. Aniette sat in the Students' Union office, flipping through a file when his phone buzzed. It was a message from one of the student reporters. "New girl is shaking things. Another protest might happen soon." He sighed. As SUG president, Aniette had dealt with student complaints before. But ever since the school gave him an office with AC and a driver, people had started saying he no longer cared about the real struggles of students. They said he was too quiet, too diplomatic, too close to the school management. And now, this new law girl, Idara MM, was out to prove just that. Aniette didn't recognize the name immediately. But when he checked the viral video of the girl speaking boldly at the hostel, his heart skipped. That voice, that face. He leaned closer to the screen. "She looks like..." "No, it can't be," he whispered. Could this be the same Idara from years ago? The girl who used to sit quietly in his kitchen with her mother? The one whom he had admired from afar? The one he had always wanted to talk to but never did? He stared at the screen again. Her hair was different now, natural and full. Her face was more grown, her voice stronger. But yes, it was her. He stood up, confused. How was she in the same school? How did he not know all this while? Meanwhile, Idara was holding another students' meeting under the mango tree near the Faculty of Law. The SUG president does nothing, she said loudly. He smiles, wears nice shirts, and shakes hands with only the VC. But when the students are suffering, he disappears. The students clapped and nodded. They were tired of the fake promises. Idara had become their hope. She's not afraid of anyone, a student said. She's the kind of leader we need, another added. That evening, Aniette sat alone in his room. He remembered all the times he saw her in the past, quiet, serious, and beautiful. And now, here she was, standing against him, calling him weak, calling him a puppet. He didn't know whether to laugh or be angry. But one thing was clear. Idara was back in his life. And this time, she wasn't peeling onions. She was peeling off his reputation. It started with a notice on the hostel wall. New water levy, 5,000 naira per student. Pay before the end of the month. Students were confused. Why pay more for water when they barely had any in the first place? Anger began to rise in the hostels. And standing right in the middle of that anger was Idara. This is nonsense, Idara shouted during a small gathering outside Hall 3. We fetch water with buckets. We stand in line for hours. And now they want us to pay more? For what? Voices of support echoed all around her. That girl na fire oh, someone whispered. She did talk waiting with a feel, another said. Idara didn't wait for permission. By the next day, she had printed flyers and posted them all over campus. Students deserve better. Join the protest. Meet at school gate, Friday 10 a.m. And they came, hundreds of them. Students from different departments. Science, arts, law, even some from engineering. They carried placards and chanted, "No water, no fee. We are students, not fools. Fix the system or step down." In the school's administrative building, chaos was spreading. The vice-chancellor called an emergency meeting. This girl, this Idara, he said through gritted teeth. She's causing too much noise. Call the SUG president now. Moments later, Aniette stood in front of the VC. You know what to do, the VC said coldly. End that protest. Today. Use your voice if you have to. Just stop it. Aniette nodded slowly, but his heart was pounding. He knew it was Idara. He didn't want to hurt her, but he had to act. His position was on the line. At 10:45 a.m., Aniette arrived at the protest ground with a group of student union boys, tall, rough-looking guys who were known to scatter any gathering. Break it up, one of them shouted. The crowd booed. Then things turned ugly. Someone pushed a placard. A bag of sachet water was thrown. One of the boys shoved a student. And in the middle of the chaos, Idara was pushed to the ground. Her head hit a pavement hard. Everything went quiet.